Hey, World Entertainment. And Hollywood really has become a strange place because now you're not allowed to criticize anything. Because what do? Well, they call it review bombing. And what do they think that could do? They think it'll end the franchises. Because Star Trek has an artist who's warning fans, you need to stop review bombing Starfleet Academy because it could end the franchise. That's right. This show is so bad and everybody is hating it so much that people who worked on comics and books and stuff are now coming out and saying, oh no guys, you gotta stop hating it, you gotta start loving it, otherwise they might stop making it fucking good. Good riddance. We don't want this garbage. That's the problem. We don't want this garbage. We want good storytelling. And there was a guy who put out the big post, like, it could have been this guy, who was pretty much saying, like, you're never going to get what aired in the 90s. It's never going back to that. We don't need it to be what it was in the 90s. What we do need it to be, though, is intelligent writing, compelling storytelling, and have characters that you actually get invested in and enjoy being with. That is not what we're getting with this. But this thing of review bombing, everything now is, they don't like it, must be review bombing. And to say it's coordinated is hilarious. But let's dive into this anyway. So saying the debate around supposed Starfleet Academy review bombing has quickly become the latest flashpoint in the ongoing culture war between legacy franchises and their audiences. And now even long-time Star Trek insiders are weighing in. Following the rocky, to put it mildly, rollout of Starfleet Academy, a new narrative has begun circulating. One less focused on the show itself and more on the supposed consequences of fan backlash. So you see, there's backlash now to you disliking something. How come there's no, it doesn't go the other way when you like something? Look at the amount of shows that got praised, like on Netflix and stuff, that got praised and had massive audience scores. Everybody was watching it, they charted, and the network straight up cancelled them. Look at how that worked. Some franchise insiders are now warning that sustained negative feedback and so-called review bombing could push Star Trek toward another long hiatus, or even threaten its viability in the streaming era altogether. Do you know what we say to that? Good. It needs to go on hiatus to get the bad taste of Kurtzman Trek out of our mouths. And as for threatening it on streaming, good. It doesn't belong on streaming. It should be on terrestrial television for everybody to watch, because it used to be for everybody. And you've turned it into such a horrible, dystopian, dark, violent world where you definitely don't want to sit down with your kids to watch it. Let's go, little Johnny and little Sarah. Let's sit down and watch Star Trek where they now have sex scenes and they're dropping F-bombs here, there and everywhere. Oh look, this guy got his eyeball ripped out and this one got his head cut off. So Star Trek, isn't it? Yeah. So to take it off streaming, that's not a bad thing either. So it's saying anyway, but that raises an uncomfortable question. If the current direction of the franchise isn't resonating with audiences, would stepping away for a time really be such a bad thing? Or could a pause be exactly what Star Trek needs to recalibrate and rediscover what made it endure for nearly 60 years? It will be 60 years this year. The controversy escalated when veteran Star Trek artist Christopher Cushman publicly suggested that negative audience reactions could have long-term consequences for the franchise future. So what did he actually do? So according to Cushman, what's happening to Starfleet Academy isn't organic backlash, but coordinated review bombing. And if it continues, it could jeopardize the viability of future shows and even send the franchise into a prolonged hiatus. Again, going on a big break right now to get rid of this horrible taste of Kurtzman Trek is not a bad thing. But this thing, it's not organic. It's coordinated. He's on to us, folks. What can I say? Put your hands up. Red alert. He's on to us. Shields up. Battle stations, everybody. Get the hell out of here! Because I'm sitting here on my laptop, my phone, I'm WhatsApping, I'm Skyping, I'm this, that, the other. I've got pigeons with the messages on them. I've got Morse code going out saying, everybody, quick, all together at the same time. Let's say this show is shit. Yeah, that's not happening. That is not happening at all. Do you know what is happening? I'm sitting down watching it to review it and hating every fucking second of it because it is some of the worst god-awful shit I've ever seen. They can't even keep up with their own crap they've introduced into the show. Let me put it this way, right? In this latest episode, episode 7, we have the character of Genesis, who sneaks back onto the ship, which, for some reason, has nobody on board but Tig Notaro. She's meant to be the only officer on board. A fucking starship. But she goes back on board and meets up with Caleb. And they go to the bridge and she is there to try and sneak out her recommendation forms and stuff. And the reason she wants to take them is she's gotten fast tracked to a captain's course and blah blah blah. And she's terrified that they're going to look and see in her records that there was a minor infraction for something. But the fact that people's recommendations of her also put down that, you know, she does things out of fear. Her decision making comes from fear and stuff. And it's like, but they refer your acceptance into Starfleet, like into the Academy. You got accepted with those recommendations on there that highlighted that you also do things via fear. But here's the issue. That's stupid as is. Like, why would you be worried about them seeing that when that was in your acceptance letter? But here's where it gets stupid, because Kurtzman doesn't even know their own shit they put into their own shit. What do I mean by that? Well, the character of Saru from Star Trek Discovery, his species, what are they called? Kelpians? They have a gland that comes out of the back of their head, their fear gland. In other words, these things come out of the back of the head anytime he senses fear and danger and doesn't want to do anything. This was a guy who became the second officer of the Discovery. And basically, he was a science officer at the start. And when they said, hey, there's something we've never seen before over there, his little glands come out and he gets terrified and goes, yeah, we shouldn't go there. We should go over that way to the safety area. It's like, that's what you're out there for. How did he get approved to Starfleet? How did he even get on board a starship? How did he actually pass the exams in as a cadet to become a Starfleet officer when his species was terrified of everything? Absolutely everything. And this guy became the first officer and eventually became captain. So why is she afraid? So they basically made a character who was scared shitless of everything and still was able to become a commander and then a captain. But now the character of Genesis is so terrified that she has to remove those parts of her file because she thinks she can't become a captain with it. It's like, what? Not to mention, with all of these things, like she does things out of fear and stuff, that would play perfectly then into the psych test. The psych test is something that 1,000 years into the future, they would still actually do. Those are the two things that would still be done. Psych test, Kobayashi Maru. Kobayashi Maru, because it's putting people into the scenario of you will have to possibly one day make a decision that you're in a no-win scenario, and it's the choices of do you try and win, or what do you do? Because the reality is there's no way out of this. So that would be absolutely guaranteed to still continue. The psych test would also guarantee still be in operation. Why? Because it's not a test about what your psychic abilities are and stuff like that. It is a test that makes it sound like it's about your fear, your greatest fear, and it's not. It's actually to see how you work in stressful and crazy situations. Now, it's different for everybody. For Wesley Crusher, because he lost his father and his father died on duty, Wesley's fear was basically, what kind of decisions could he make as a Starfleet officer? And when the psych test started for him, again, he doesn't even know that it started. He's given the decision in the scenario. He doesn't know it's a scenario and all this, but he's given a decision. There's two options for him. There's a guy trapped and there's another guy who's not trapped. And the decision is, does he help the guy who's trapped and leave the other guy to die? Or does he sacrifice all three of them to try and help everyone in this scenario. And he made the decision to help the guy that was trapped. The guy who wasn't trapped and could have left but was too scared to, he left to die. And that was the psych test. It was to see, could he make that decision? How do you think any of these idiots, these window lickers in this show would cope? Especially someone we've seen that shouldn't even be as a cadet. I'm talking, of course, about I swallowed my comm badge, dumb bitch. Because we've seen her swallow her comm badge. We've seen her running around the ship during a crisis screaming red alert. And we've seen her have a mental breakdown where she had to get removed from the bridge by seeing a dead body. How did she even get past the psych test to get into Starfleet Academy? Because it's not a course that happens in the academy, it's a course that happens to get into the academy. How would she have gotten a... We're seeing all this type of shit, and these people are trying to say, stop talking about it, stop saying it's terrible, because the more you do that, they mightn't make any more of it. It's like, good, we don't want them to make more of it. So he continued saying, negative review bombing of Academy likely to end the possibility of the show like Legacy, as well put Trek into a 10 to 15 year hiatus. Legacy's never happening. That's never happening, because they did offer Terry Metalis the chance to do it, but they gave him an offer that they knew he would refuse, because they offered him next to no money. They offered him the chance to continue as showrunner, but he had to do it in Prague. And he was like, no. And they made him that offer because they knew he'd refuse it. So they can say, well, we offered it to him, but he's turned it down. So this continues saying, it's a serious claim, one that frames fan criticism not as feedback, but as sabotage. Yet for many viewers, that accusation didn't just miss the mark, it poured gasoline on an already burning debate. And that is the thing. Now, the article goes on. You can look at the full article at that Park Place, but that is the thing. Like, you're trying to say, stop hating it, because if you hate it, they'll stop making it. It's like, good. We don't want these people making it to make it. We want people who know what they're doing. We want people who will know and respect and understand canon and what the franchise is. Again, it doesn't have to be shooty, pew, pew. It shouldn't be that. Where is the exploration? Where is the diplomacy? Where is the actual conversation that builds interesting characters, rather than, oh look, they're crying again in a hallway and this one's gay for that one and all this shit? There's nothing compelling about anybody in this show. There's nothing compelling about the story. Episode 7 basically had no plot. It was like she's trying to get a chip or a file to change it, while the gay guy isn't quite gay but is gay and meant to get married but doesn't get married, or did he? It's just like, what's the actual story here? There was no story. It was just, let's just sit around and talk and talk and talk. And then when you realise that they've talked so much, you realise they've actually said nothing. You've learned really nothing about these people. It's so stupid. We don't want to be following characters like this. We don't want to follow these types of people. We don't want these one arc storylines that go nowhere. Again, you had an article out, I covered it already, about them saying, oh, News Baraka is by far the best Star Trek villain since TNG and DS9 and stuff. He's doing what all other modern Trek has failed to do and be this compelling villain. He's been in 2 fucking episodes. 2 out of 10, he's been in 2 episodes so far. I was like, you're saying he's the best villain they've ever had in a modern Star Trek? It's ridiculous. So no, it's not review bombing. It's actual criticism, because what is being put on the screen is shit, and we're calling it out as being shit. If it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, you know what it is? It's a fucking duck. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like and share and subscribe and all that good stuff, and hit that hype button. Cheers, and I shall catch you in the next one.